Welcome in, folks, to another edition of College Hockey Southwest Weekly, Long Distance Devils. My man Paul Hornstein is with me live from New York City. You say hello to the UNLV Rebels when they landed about 2 hours ago, Paul?
They're probably still traveling from the airport. It depends on what airport they went to. If they went to one of the city airports, they're probably still driving. If they went to the Long Island airport, which is about 20 minutes from here, they might be just about getting in now. I actually am not that far from Stony Brook, where UNLV is playing this weekend.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm going to be a little preoccupied.
Yeah, it was a big weekend for us.
Yeah, so.
Well, speaking of driving, if you live in Phoenix metro area right now, it's probably the worst traffic I've seen in 29 years of living here because it is ridiculous. Every baseball fan in the country is here right now, and it didn't help that Manny Machado signed with the Padres, and probably Bryce Harper is going to sign with the Giants, and Nolan Arenado signed an extension with the Rockies. So that's all my baseball news for you. Let's move on to hockey.
I'm ready.
All right. Big weekend coming up for final weekend of the regular season for the Arizona State Sun Devils. They travel to Minnesota. I'm hopping a red-eye flight early Friday morning to get up there to see the boys. We're going to hope to do a little Sunday special on their last weekend travel. So it should be fun. I know the team's going to leave tomorrow, get in there tomorrow night and skate at Mariucci tomorrow night, then also skate on Friday morning for a morning skate. And then there'll be the final 2 games of the season. So what's your thoughts?
It really kind of depends on which Minnesota team shows up.
Right. Yeah.
This has been, at least in the last 3 weekends, a very Jekyll and Hyde team. They didn't look like they could stop anybody a few weeks ago when they played at Penn State. And then they went to Ohio State and swept the Buckeyes in Columbus.
Welcome to Big Ten hockey, my friend.
And I'm telling you, I watched those 2 games in Columbus, and I'm like, is this the same team? Now, they didn't get off a ton of shots against Ohio State, but they scored. Right. And they won the games. And you win on the road. There's no such thing as ugly road wins. Actually, there's no such thing as ugly wins, period. Ugly or not, you take them. And this week they played Notre Dame. Once again, they didn't get a whole lot of shots, but they managed enough shots to I think they split this weekend with Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yep.
So I don't know what to make of this team. I do know this, that I've watched a lot of Big Ten hockey this year, and it really has that 80s, late 80s, early 90s feel where defense, we don't need no stinking defense. The heck with that. So,
well, they better have offense, because I got 2 words for you. Joey Decord is coming to town, and Joey looked sharp in practice yesterday. He did his little NCAA hockey Twitter live thing today, where he answered questions on Ask Dax, and so he's riding pretty high. He knows what's at stake. They all know what's at stake. This week we had a chance to visit with Tyler Bush and Joey for the College Hockey Southwest Weekly, which will be up tomorrow. And, the guys are confident. They're ready. Coach Powers is confident and ready. I did notice a lot at practice the other day that they were, and I asked Coach about this, they were doing a lot of teaching. He said it was just reminding. To me, it looked like teaching. But anyway, I don't think it can hurt just to remind, teach, whatever you want to call it, just to keep them in the right frame of mind for the final weekend. And, we both agree now there's a magic number of 1.
1.
And we got to get 1 more win. I had a chance to visit with our bracketologist, as I like to call him, our pairwise guy, Mike McNally, today. Mike says One win keeps them in 8 or 9. A sweep would secure them in the number 8 spot, he feels. And then 2 losses might move them to 12 or 13, which makes it a little scary.
Makes it not a little scary, makes it a lot scary.
Yeah. So don't take your foot off the gas. Just go play Minnesota like you've been playing all year and get a win or two.
Get a win or two. Make sure you're upset proof in the pairwise. The way games have gone, especially last weekend, ASU was actually almost kind of creeping up towards the 6th spot. But obviously when you're not playing, that's kind of hard to do. People kind of fell back to them. But you can't control what other people do, and you have to go to Minnesota this weekend, and you have to get one. One would just about keep you upset proof in the pairwise. In my looking at the various conference tournaments, I can see 3 leagues ending up in an upset where the team that's solidified in the pairwise doesn't win. Would it surprise you if any of the 7 teams in the Big Ten won that conference tournament? No, it wouldn't. Right now, Ohio State's the only team that seems to be a pairwise lock, but it would not surprise you if any of the other 6 teams won that conference. BU and BC in Hockey East, they have the pedigree and they have the talent on paper. UMass is playing really well. Lowell's on the bubble, but would it really surprise anybody if BU or BC made a run?
Wouldn't surprise me.
No, well, I mean, BC has Wall in goal and BU has Ottinger in goal, and these are guys that have been there and been big-time goalies. And there's a bunch of those in the NCAA this year. There's a lot more than at least I recognized at the start of the season, but there are some big-time goalies in the NCAA this year. The NCHC.
And none of them reside in the Big Ten. Oh,
no.
That was a little poke on my end.
Nope, they really don't. Ohio State has the experience, and they've been going with 2 goalies, so it'll be very interesting to see which one they play in the conference tournament. If they continue to rotate their goalies or just play with the one. The NCHC, the only team out of the pairwise that you could see making a run would be North Dakota. But right now that means they would have to beat 4 teams that are pretty much locked in the pairwise. They'd have to come up and beat Western Michigan. They'd have to beat St. Cloud. They'd have to beat Duluth.
Denver.
And they'd have to beat Denver or 3 out of those 4 teams to get the automatic bid. That's just a gauntlet I can't see. And if they can't do it, I don't really see any of the other teams in the NCHC. In the WCHA, Minnesota State is probably a lock for the tournament. I can't see.
Well, they're locked for the tournament. It's a matter of whether they're locked to win their conference tournament.
Well, that's an issue right now too. They're clearly the best team in that conference, but Bowling Green could beat them. Could beat them in one game. One game is a scary proposition.
Yeah.
Any team, let me go put my Captain Obvious hat on. One game anybody can win. That's the beauty and the danger of the NCAA tournament is one game is do or die, and you could be the far better team, but the other team gets the bounce, and you go home and they go on. So,
well, you just gave us a rundown on what could happen.
Right.
I'm going to give my Captain Obvious hat just comes on. Just one phrase, just win, baby.
That's it. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Win.
You're in the driver's seat. There's no reason to let anybody back into you. Just keep the pedal on the metal and get it done.
Yeah, and this team this weekend, Minnesota, once again, it's like playing BU and playing BC. You have 13 NHL draft picks on this team. 13.
Let me tell you who I'm going to predict to have a big weekend. I'm going to give you 4 names. Dmitry's Komanzis, Brinson Pashnuk, and the 2 seniors, Anthony Croston and Dylan Holman. All 4 of those guys are going to enjoy the big ice surface. They know how to handle the puck, and they know how to finish it when they get a chance. So watch for those 4 this weekend to kind of rise above the rest of the crowd.
Well, listen, I've said it all season long. When they've gotten scoring from people other than the guys on Johnny Walker's line, they've had success.
Yeah.
And once again, it's clear to see why, because Walker's line is always going to have, or almost always going to have, the other team's best defensive pairing out against it. Teams are going to focus on keeping the puck away from Walker, especially in the offensive zone. So these other guys have to step up. Not just those guys you mentioned, but PJ Morocco has to step up. Jordan Sandu has to take some of the pressure off of Johnny with his scoring. The other guys need to do the job, and if they get scoring out of the back end, and they do on occasion, not just with Brinson Pashnuk, but Josh Maniscalco as well, they win games. And so that's what you have to look for. And we'll say it because I like to be consistent. Stay out of the box.
You just led me into what I was going to say. Here's my keys to victory, and I'll tell you the keys to losing the series. The keys to victory are the speed, using the speed of the forwards and the goaltending of Joey Decord to win the games. That's how you're going to do it. What do I fear if they lose? What's going to be the cause of it? It's going to be losing control of their emotions and taking stupid penalties and spending time in your favorite spot, the penalty box.
Well, Scott, listen.
And the second thing is, will these young defensemen be able to adjust to a bigger ice surface? That's my only other scary part.
Well, that will be one of the questions. I mean, the space between the dots in the defensive zone is the same. It's the space outside the dots that's different.
Yeah.
They're going to I hope that a couple of days of practicing on that ice kind of gets them quickly adjusted, because if you make a mistake and miscalculate the timing on that, there's a lot of space for the forwards to get around you. And so
a lot of space to lose forwards on that ice surface. If you get caught up with the guy in that extra space along the boards and somebody sneaks into the middle of the ice, he now has about 15 more feet to shoot the puck from, as opposed to that smaller surface that's tightened in. And they don't, you can close quicker, is guess what I'm trying to say.
Well, here's the solution to that is play your man. Whoever your defensive assignment is, play your man. Don't worry about the puck, because if the guy doesn't have space to shoot or the guy doesn't have space to pass, the ice can be twice the size. If you stay with your guy, don't chase the puck, and keep your assignment, then you don't have to worry about the width of the ice. Don't go chasing the hits. They will come to you. I don't care whether you're playing on an NHL ice or an Olympic ice. The hits will come to you. Your chances to be physical and to take your man out of the play will come to you. You don't have to chase it. And most teams, not just ASU, when their defensemen and the forwards try to chase the puck and chase the hits, they get caught out of position, and that's when they give up goals.
Yep, and if you listen to my interview with Joey, tomorrow, you'll hear me ask him specifically about what he was going to do differently on the Olympic ice sheet. He's got it down. He knows he wants to stay within the paint. He wants to start from the goal line and work his way out on shots so he doesn't lose it. He knows that there may be a split second or more of time, so he doesn't want to react too quickly. So he knows what he's doing. He's ready to go. What's interesting is Tom had a little visit with him afterwards, giving him an update on the Ottawa Senators. It was funny. Tom follows NHL hockey religiously, and he knew the whole draft scenario. And he was telling Joey, he's going like, they're awful young right now. I think you'd be better off coming back to ASU next year for one more year.
I get
another day.
I was going to say, I guess that's a topic for the 3 weeks we have to kill between this weekend and hopefully a tournament bid. But keeping your discipline, keeping your man under control, and not chasing. Key 1, key 2, or key 1A is you have to stay out of the box. Minnesota's power play is operating at about 25% for the season. And you're going to get murdered if you give a team with that much talent that extra space. We're not just talking about the extra 15 feet wide. Now you're talking about playing one guy down. And you cannot do that. Your advantage going into this weekend is your 5-on-5 play and your goalie. Minnesota's given up over 3 goals a game. ASU's given up about 2.5 goals a game. So when you go into the penalty box, you've now dismantled your advantage, and you can't do that. You cannot do that.
I think they'll play a good game, penalty-free, pretty much just from regular play. What worries me is getting under the skin. If Minnesota's picked up what AIC did in the second and third period last week of Saturday's game, if they try to do that and think they'll get them out of control a little bit, then we could be in for a long weekend. So hopefully they've learned their lesson. They can't retaliate. They're going to have to just, the best answer is put the puck in the net, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of things that last week from the AIC games that kind of surprised me. One was I was kind of surprised at a certain point that coach didn't use his timeout. Okay. Some coaches don't really like to use their timeout. I get that. The other thing that kind of surprised me is I thought for sure Steen Pashnik was going to get a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, we were fortunate. Very fortunate.
I'm stunned that they didn't give him a 1 game. I don't know. I'm sure they looked at it.
Oh, yeah. Well, 2 reasons. This is why I believe he didn't get the suspension. When they looked back on tape on it, they realized that it was not contact to the head or from really behind. It was a solid hit from a big individual. And number 2 is Powers was not happy with that officiating crew the whole weekend, and he let them have it, and he was probably in their ear telling them, there's no way that you can go ahead and suspend my player for a game if you're not going to do something about the officiating all weekend long, because we all saw it. He saw it better than anyone, and he was still a little fuming when I talked to him Tuesday. So,
it seems odd that these things seem to happen against. I know it seems like they happen mostly happened against AIC, and RIT was kind of the same thing, except those games were on the road.
Yeah,
and you kind of expect a little home cooking when you go on the road. So, I don't know if it was just a play of.
Here's my opinion on this. They brought in WCHA officiating this year for all their games, right?
And that was a smart move.
Yeah, and for conduct. But what's happened is it almost looks like the WCHA officials are saying, listen, we're not going to show any favoritism towards this Arizona State program, even though we're, quote unquote, the home officials for them.
And I don't want that either. I don't
to not do that.
I don't want to see that either. I don't want to notice the officials at all.
Yeah, me too.
So, but when you give a team 13 straight minutes of penalties, it's hard not to notice.
Right. And hard not to affect the game. I mean, 5 minutes is one thing, but 13 straight is just, that just turns the whole game around.
Yeah.
And ASU was fortunate they got out of it. That's water under the bridge.
Yeah. Here's a couple of things to look at from the ASU standpoint.
Okay.
Excuse me, because I get my notes. First of all ASU has to do this weekend is do what they've been doing on the road, and that's play 500.
Yep.
They're one game over 500 on the road for the season. So if you play 500 this weekend, you're good. The thing that makes them dangerous, and if they go on and play after this weekend, first of all, they're 6-3 in 1-goal games.
Yeah.
Okay. And in those 1-goal games, they're 4-2 on the road in 1-goal games. Okay. And 3-0 in overtime games on the road. Right. So those are very good signs of a team that will keep grinding and a team that will fight till the end, which of course is what you want. But those are some things that you have to look at, and those are some things that you say from an ASU standpoint, hey, these are the things that our advantages are. We need to not negate those by having ourselves donut chain coffee in the penalty box like the commercial.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we got that covered. Let's quickly touch before we end tonight on some of the recruits that are coming in. There's been a nice line of recruits coming in, and next year or possibly the year after, we're going to see a group of guys that are NHLers with Danny Briere's son, Scott Niedermayer's son, and Mario Lemieux's son. It's going to be kind of fun to see ASU hockey when you got Lemieux and Niedermayer and Briere. You can't really go wrong, can you?
Listen, I said it a couple of years ago when they signed Austin Lemieux, who I think needs to have a bounce back weekend this weekend as well, because he's probably going to be in the lineup even if he's the extra forward. People forget because he had to medically retire, but they also had Riley Simpson, Craig Simpson's kid, yes, on the roster.
Yep. Okay.
Now, when you have the sons of NHL players on your roster, and I think ASC had a couple of them too. That says something about your program and your and the recruiting that you do, and your ability to convince parents who played at a high level to at least have their child consider your school.
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean that every NHL player's kid who's good enough to play college hockey is going to come to your school or not? I mean, that's not really the point. But the fact that your program has enough to convince those players who have, let's face it, seen a lot of the hockey world at all levels, that this is a place for your kid, I think that's a good thing.
It's a great thing. It also speaks a lot to Greg Bowers and the respect that he's getting, not only around college hockey, but around hockey scene. I made him blush again because I told him there's an ACHA D2 West Regional Tournament being held at Oceanside this weekend. Directly responsible from Greg Bowers and the success that he's having and has had at the ACHA level, that they look to Oceanside to host a big tournament. That's a big tournament in ACHA ranks in terms of numbers and in terms of results. And Grand Canyon will be playing in that, so of course we'll have some coverage on that for you before I head out to Minneapolis. And then just throw another couple of things out. We want to throw out a good luck wish, I guess, to our boys in Siberia.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got we got our boys in Siberia. I don't know if you heard what I told Gage Mackey. I said
Yeah.
when I grew up, if a hockey player got sent to Siberia, it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I've been seeing. I said especially if you were not American and got sent.
Yeah.
So good luck to those guys as they start tournament play very soon out there. I've seen some pictures from some of the guys in Vegas, or Jared Turcotte has sent some pictures back from UNLV, and it is what it is. It's a dorm. It's hockey, right? They're just there to play hockey and come home.
Listen, the Olympic Village in Lake Placid was going to be a prison after they were done. So, I mean,
Exactly.
it wasn't exactly a 5-star hotel. So,
No kidding.
here's the other thing that I gathered from your conversation with the coach this weekend as I watched it this morning. And you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not as up on the ACHA format. But not to use a direct quote, but he said he's used to having to deal with the long layoff between the end of the season and the postseason. So I'm guessing that if you qualify for the national ACHA tournament without having to play a regional, you're waiting for 2 to 4 weeks before you start playing.
Well, and in ACHA D1, for example, we use this weekend, Saturday and Sunday afternoon.
Right.
U of A and ASU finish their seasons, right? That'll be March 3rd. They don't play again until the 17th of March or 18th, maybe even the 19th if they're an automatic bid like U of A will be this year.
Right.
So there's a 2.5, 3 week time. And what Greg was saying is sometimes you even end a week earlier than that or 2 weeks earlier than that. So he's right. He is used to it in the ACHA part of it. They have a long layoff before they go into action.
So we'll see if that comes into play at all. I thought that was a very interesting piece that came out of your interview with your 5-minute powers play this week. So that caught my ear in terms of what the coach had to say, and we'll go from there. Stay out of the box, put the puck in the net, and take the chances.
Never hockey game and get great goaltending.
Yeah, maybe.
Magic number is still right here. Still number one.
One. It's boring when I agree, Scott. It just takes away my whole game.
Well, I'm gonna ask you for your magic number when I talk to you. I may give you a call from the visitors radio booth at Mariucci Arena on Saturday. If they win Friday, I'm gonna ask you what the magic number is now, because my magic number is we've achieved it.
No, you'd be wrong there too.
You're gonna tell me it's still one, aren't you?
No. They win that one game, the magic number will be 4.
Oh yeah, now you're going my way. Why would I not be surprised at that? All right, so we'll get much more into it. Just recap quickly if and when they get into the tournament. It's still, as they sit right now, leaning them towards Fargo strictly because of the way the top seeds, as they currently are ranked, come out, with Providence possibly in. They're going to want to keep them in Providence. UMass is going to want to stay in Manchester. And Ohio State and Penn State, if they both get in, which Penn State right now we don't know. But if they should get in, they would be drivable to Allentown, which would probably send ASU to Fargo. And this is coming from our bracketologist, our official bracketologist, Mike McNally. He's got this thing all figured out. He says it's ASU and Western Michigan as the 2-3 seed with St. Cloud State. And who did he tell me the number 4 was in that group?
Well, if it's St. Cloud, it would have to be the Atlantic Hockey Conference winner because they're going to be the 16 team. So,
I guess probably.
Well, right now the common wisdom seems to be, at least based on the pairwise, either Western Michigan or Northeastern.
Yep.
So, and the USCHO guy who does his brackets had ASU playing in Manchester against Northeastern. So,
yeah, I still say they're going east, but we'll see. Time will tell. But let's get through the weekend. Have a good week. We'll maybe talk to you this weekend, surprise call you or something, and maybe do something from the press box and do a little chat.
I'll be around.
So just so everybody knows what our schedule is, the podcast began with tomorrow, the College Hockey Southwest Weekly, a special edition on Thursday. Then we'll be into Friday and Saturday podcasts for the final two games. Then we'll go back to Tuesday again. We'll go a couple of Tuesdays, and then we'll go on the 16th. We'll do a live podcast from Behind the Mask and their Smash Fest, where people will be testing out new sticks and smashing TVs and windows and all kinds of things. It's a break day. So we'll be live from out there. And then the Tuesday before the selection show. And then from there, we're off to regionals.
Well, listen, by the time the Tuesday before the selection show comes out, we should have a pretty good idea what the story is. So
yeah, we will. We'll definitely know because we'll have a good idea who's still hanging around. But I was impressed with the fact that that ASU didn't play last weekend, and they moved or they held their own and they did gain ground on both Ohio State and Denver a little bit, but they can't go. Those are the only two teams that they could beat, and both of those teams would have to get swept this weekend and ASU would have to sweep to have them get more points than either Denver or Ohio State.
We'll worry about that after the weekend's up.
All right. Have a good week. I know it's late tonight. Late for me. My day started at 5 a.m. this morning. So
that late, huh? Okay. I was already out of my house at 5 o'clock this morning. So
I'd give you a New York salute, but that wouldn't be.
Yeah, I've been given a few of those.
Have a good night, my friend. Let's talk to you this weekend.
You got it.